A reading from the Gospel of John. At that time, Jesus revealed himself again to his disciples at the Sea of Tiberias. He revealed himself in this way. Together were Simon Peter, Thomas called Didymus, Nathanael from Cana in Galilee, Zebedee's sons, and two others of his disciples. Simon Peter said to them, "I am going fishing." They said to him, "We also will come with you." So they went out and got into the boat, but that night they caught nothing. When it was already dawn, Jesus was standing on the shore, but the disciples did not realize that it was Jesus. Jesus said to them, "Children, have you caught anything to eat?" They answered him, "No." So he said to them, "Cast the net over the right side of the boat and you will find something." So they cast it and were not able to pull it in because of the number of fish. So the disciple whom Jesus loved said to Peter, "It is the Lord." When Simon Peter heard that it was the Lord, he tucked in his garment, for he was lightly clad, and jumped into the sea. The other disciples came in the boat, for they were not far from shore, only about 100 yards, dragging the net with the fish. When they climbed out on shore, they saw a charcoal fire with fish on it and bread. Jesus said to them, "Bring some of the fish you just caught." So Simon Peter went over and dragged the net ashore full of 153 large fish. Even though there were so many, the net was not torn. Jesus said to them, "Come, have breakfast." And none of the disciples dared to ask him, "Who are you?" because they realized it was the Lord. Jesus came over and took the bread and gave it to them, and in like manner the fish. This was now the third time Jesus was revealed to his disciples after being raised from the dead. From the very beginning, there has been debate of exactly how Jesus was resurrected. Was he really and truly bodily resurrected? Or did it just appear that way? Or was it not a resurrection at all, but rather was Jesus simply appearing to these people as a vision? Today's gospel passage shows exactly what John's community believes to have happened. Jesus was really and truly bodily resurrected. However, in addition to being bodily resurrected, he can now do things that he never did before his death and resurrection. He can simply appear and disappear before people's very eyes. He can also appear into rooms that are locked. This also means he can walk through walls, just like a ghost could do. However, in today's gospel, John's community believes that Jesus is a fully resurrected human being, and then some. After all, normal human beings can't walk through walls and appear and disappear before our very eyes. Knowing this fact caused debate among early Christian groups to explain how this could happen. As I've said before, in these early stages, a more apt term to describe this variety is Christianities, because different groups of people needed to sort out what had happened and what it all meant. True Christianity would need to evolve gradually over time. As a result, the major question of whether it was really and truly Jesus of Nazareth in body and soul was something that these Christianities didn't all agree on. For example, there was a group that would later be deemed heretical, known as the Gnostic Christians, who believed that Jesus didn't really and truly become bodily resurrected. Within this one group, however, there were various different opinions. Like I often say about Slovenians, when you had two people, you had three different opinions. Some said that Jesus died on the cross and then only appeared to be fully resurrected after his death. However, some even took it a step further, saying that Jesus only appeared to be crucified. Some said that a person was crucified in place of Jesus and looked very similar to him, while others said that the real Jesus was occupying the body of a human being and then abandoned him, as said in Mark and Matthew's gospel, just before the human that Jesus was living within would die. Regardless of what these groups believed, the consensus among Gnostic Christians was that Jesus only appeared to be resurrected, while some added on that Jesus only appeared to be crucified. As an aside, these Gnostic Christians would later influence Muhammad, the founder of Islam, who would claim that God revealed in the Quran that Jesus wasn't actually crucified because that wouldn't be a fitting death for a prophet. This sounds kind of like the telephone game to me. Getting back to John's community, they did not agree with the Gnostics' conclusion. What they did agree with the Gnostics, however, was that Jesus did indeed walk through walls, appear and disappear before their very eyes, and was able to come into fully locked rooms. However, while John's gospel acknowledges these facts, they depart from the Gnostics when Jesus eats a piece of baked fish with his 2 disciples. If Jesus were a ghost, like the Gnostics suggest, then he wouldn't be able to eat fish. Ghosts can't do that. Moreover, if you recall last week's gospel, Jesus has them touch his hands and his feet, further proving that he isn't a ghost. After all, no one can touch a ghost. So although Jesus might be able to do some things a ghost can do, i.e. walking through walls and appearing and disappearing to his disciples, his being able to eat and be touched makes him, by extension, fully and bodily resurrected. He is fully human, and then some. As a result, what we see in today's gospel is John pointing out a rival group's beliefs, i.e. the Gnostic Christians, and quite bluntly disagreeing and then disproving them altogether. So although they might have had some similarities with each other, they are quite bluntly outlining why the Gnostics are wrong. John's community, however, is right. And as we see today, John's community is on the right side of history. Christians today believe that Jesus was truly and fully bodily resurrected. What does this mean for us? Sometimes we too might get in disagreements with other Christians. Lord knows we have plenty of denominations within Christianity. John's gospel outlines a good way to disprove another person's beliefs. Step 1, point out what you do agree on. Step 2, point out what you disagree on. Step 3, state your conclusion and how that puts you in the right and the other in the wrong.